In this video, we're going to look at what the very fundamental of mathematics. I will talk about number and basic arithmetic progression. So now it's going to be a small video, but it's a starting point for some students. Do you understand? Now we want to look at what numbers first. We want to look at what we want to start with numbers. Numbers, and we have different type of numbers. I get so the first one is called integer. I get now if I should ask something now, what if I should ask a student now, what is an integer? Seriously, most students don't know, right? Now if I continue, if you know an integer, leave a comment section. What is an integer? Leave a comment section. What is an integer? So now look at something here. An integer is number, is an whole number that can be what? A positive number, a negative number, or a zero. Just now, so when we talk about an integer, we talk about an whole number that can be what? A positive number, right? Or positive number, then negative number, and a zero. Now, it does not include fraction. They don't like fraction. For example, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Counting. This is called counting number. Yeah, right? That is called natural what? Numbers. Just so as long as it does not have a decimal or it does not have a point, it's what is an integer. Or that you want to look at is minus 2, minus 1. Okay, here you can say minus 1, minus 2, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. I also have what? 0. So when we talk about an integer, now an whole number that is what? Positive, negative, and 0. This is called an integer. So that's the first thing we want to pay close attention to. Do you understand? The next thing we want to look at is what? The next one is called number 2, even number. Right? What is an even number? Leave a comment section. What is an even number? Right? Now, an even number is any number, is any what? Integer that is divisible by 2. Let me go again. An even number is an integer which is divisible by 2, which is divisible by 2. So as far as an integer is divisible by 2, is called what? An even what? Number. Now a good example is what? Is minus 10, right? This one is an integer and is divisible by 2. Minus 6, right? Is divisible by 2, so is an even number. Minus 4, and so on and so forth. Now you also have what? 2, 4, 5. 5 cannot be an even number, right? So then 6, 8, and so on and so forth, right? So when we talk about an even number is an integer that is what? Divisible by 2. Do you understand? Divisible what? By 2 is called an even what? Number. The next one you are going to look at is called odd number. Number 3, odd number. Now, what is an odd number? An odd number is an integer or any integer that is not divisible by 2. Now remember, we have integer, right? A whole number which can either be positive, negative, or 0, right? Then we have even number. Even number are integer that is divisible by 2. Now odd numbers, these are integer that are not divisible by 2. So any integer that is not divisible by 2 is called odd number. A good example is what? Is 5. So it can either be positive or negative, right? 5 is an odd number because 2 cannot divide 5, right? So now when we say divide 2, like 2 cannot go into 5 without any remainder. There must be a remainder here, right? So 5, here we have 7, here we have what again? Here we have 9, here we have 11, right? Is an odd number. 11 is an odd number as long as it's not divisible by 2. Minus 1, right? Minus 3, and so on and so forth. As long as the number is not divisible by 2, it's called what? Odd number. For example, also what 15 minus 13, right? These are odd number because why? They are not divisible by 2. That is, 2 cannot go into this number without any what remainder. There must be a what a remainder. Just and that is what the third one, which called odd number. Look at number 4 is called prime number. Now, what is a prime number? A prime number is a natural number other than 1 that only have 2 factors, 1 and itself. Now let me explain it again. A prime number, now for a number to become a prime, it must be a natural whole number, a natural number, like counting number. Like, remember I told that natural numbers are what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, till infinity, right? Now, what about it must be a positive number, right? A positive integer, number 1. Just like a positive integer, number 1, it must have only 2 factors, 1 and itself. Just 1 and itself. That is, it can only be divided by only 2 number, 1 and itself, right? Now, this is where confusion comes in. Now, no, people do say 1 is a prime number. 1 is not a prime number. So, a prime number can be from 2 and above, and it must have 2 factors, or it can be divisible by 2 number, which is 1 and itself. Either 1 and that what number. Now, so let's look at numbers that are what prime numbers, right? 2 is a prime number because it can have 2 factors, 1 and itself. So 2, so prime numbers now it can be 2, right? Can be what? 2. Good. 2 is a prime number. Why is 2 is a prime number? Because it can be divisible by 1, it can also be divisible by itself. The next one is going to be what? 3. 3 is a prime number. Why? Why is 3 a prime number? Because 1, it can be divisible by 1, and it does not have any other factor other than itself. So it's going to be what? 3. Right? Next one is 4. 4 is not a prime number. Why? Because it can be divisible by 2. Just and so 4 have factor. So 4 is not a prime number. What about 5? 5 is a prime number. Why? Because 5 only have 2 factors, 1 and itself, which is called prime number. 6 is not a prime number, but 7 is a prime number. 8 is not a prime number. 9 is not a prime number. 10 is not a prime number. 11 is a prime number. Do you understand? 11 is a prime number. Right? Because 11 do not have any other factor. It only have 1 and itself. Prime number. 12 is not a prime number, but 13 is a prime number. 14 is not a prime number. 15 is not a prime number. 16 is not a prime number, but 17 is a prime number. Do you understand? And so on and so forth. So prime numbers, these are positive integer other than 1 that only have 2 factors, 1 and itself. So 1 is not a prime number. Hope you understand this. Number 5, next one, number 5 is called rational number. Now, what is a natural number? A rational number is just now what of fraction, right? Is the quotient of 2 integers. Now, when we talk about quotients, right, that is the division of 2 integers, right, up and down. So when we talk about rational number, we talk about A over what? B, right? Now, this A is called numerator. Right? Why this B is called denominator? Right? Now, for this guy to exist, b must not be equals to what? 0. B cannot be 0. Just so a can be any integer, it can either be positive or negative. Just but this guy here can never be 0. A good example here, we have 2 over 3, 7 over 5 minus 8 over 3, right? These are called what? Rational what? Numbers. They are called rational numbers. Very easy. Do you understand? Out number 6, right? Now look at something here. Now you can see that Z is said to be a factor of A. Right there, Z is said to be a factor of A when A is divisible. When A is divisible by what? By Z. Now let me explain to you here. For a number to be a factor of another number, it means that, for example, here we have, you can see that 2 is a factor of what? Of 6. Why? Because 6 can be divided by what? 2 without any remainder. So 6 divided by 2 is what? Is 3. Now because 2 going to 6 without any remainder to give you 3, that is 2 is a factor of 2 is a factor of 6. Just like so, you can see that 2 is a factor of what? 2 is a factor of what? Of 6. The same thing here, like 5 is a factor of what? Of 10. So when it says something is a factor of another number, that is, that number is divisible by that number. Just the number is divisible by what that number, and that number can be what? Integer. My friend is called prime factor. Prime factor. Now, what do you understand by prime factor? Can anybody explain? Look at the comment section. What is a prime factor? Now, remember, I tell you that a factor is any number that can divide a number, right? So look at something here. When you start, Z is a factor of what? Of A. What do you mean? It's just like say 2 is a factor of what? Of 4. What does it mean here? It means that 4 is divisible what? By 2. Just 4 is divisible by 2. Just now, when we talk about prime factor, right? When you take a number and look for the factors of that number, or the factor of that number, the prime numbers of those factors are called prime factors, right? So for example here, let's take this guy here, 30. Now, what are the factor of 30? What are those numbers that can go into 30 without any remainder? Because when you say something is a factor of number is a factor of another number, that is, that small number can go into that large number, can divide that large number without any remainder, right? So if you look at what the factor of 30, therefore 2, the factors are right? 2 can go into 30, right? If 2 go into 30, what do you have? Is 15. So 2 can go into 30, number 1, right? Another one is what? Another one is what? Is 3. 3 can go into 30, you have what? 10, right? What again? Can 5 go into 30? 5 can go into what? 30. If 5 go into 30 is what? 5 going to 30 is 6. Just so 2 is a factor of 30, 3 is a factor of 30, 5 is a factor of 30. Another one is 6. 6 can go into 30 to give you what? 5, right? The next one after 6, we now have 10. 10 can go, right? And 15 can go. These are all the factor of what? Of what? 30. 2 can go into 30, 3 can go into 30, 5 can go into 30, 6 can go into 30, 10 can go into 30, and 15 can go into what? 30, right? Now, if you check it very well, which of these numbers are prime numbers? Right? So when we talk about prime factors, right? Those factors of a number that are prime, right? So 2 is a prime number, right? You put it down. 2 is a prime number, right? 3 is a prime number. 3 is a prime number, right? Then 5 is also a prime number. 5 is a prime number. 6 is not a prime number. 10 is not a prime number. And 50 is not a prime number. So these are called prime factors of what? 30. Just and these are what prime factors of what? Of 30. You can see how easy it is, right? So you must understand what's in here. So when you talk about prime factors, so you look at that number, look at what all the factors of that number. So once you look at all the factors of that number there, then bring out what the prime factors. So those factors that are prime are called prime factors. Prime factors. So that is it.